Our next presenter is Doug Gansler, is a Maryland Attorney General. He was elected to his second term as Attorney General of Maryland in November 2010. Since taking office, he's focused on environmental, consumer, and public safety issues. This past June, he became president of the National Association of Attorney Generals. Prior to that was the Democratic Attorney Generals Association president. Been very active in issues dealing with internet privacy. This has become his presidential initiative, the Privacy in the Digital Age, and this will explore best ways to manage privacy risks. So with that, we please welcome Attorney General Doug Gansler.
Thank you, Don. And as typically happens, the federal government leaves and the states are here to clean up the mess. But it was really, and I want to echo something Congressman Rogers said, it was great to see the bipartisan nature of both of them being here, and these issues obviously transcend politics, the issues that they were talking about. And in that regard, and Don gave me leeway not to dwell on cybersecurity, which is an issue that my father works on very diligently at the University of Maryland, and it's an issue that we really do face, and the magnitude of it is incredible. Bob Mueller, who's the head of the FBI, actually was my boss in the homicide section years ago, and this is a focus that he's doing with the FBI, and it really is a true and scary issue. And so with the doom and gloom that was left by the previous three speakers, I am talking about cybersecurity, which really breaks down to protecting the privacy and the integrity of what is on the internet and on the computers. And I talk about it, I'm going to talk about it at the individual and business level. Because as Don mentioned, I am the president of the bipartisan group NAG, National Association of Attorneys General, also known as National Association of Aspiring Governors. And and as such, we get involved in a lot of different issues. And the guy who was there last year, his presidential initiative, which is the year-long theme that we have a number of panels on, there were conferences on, was Rob McKenna, who's the Attorney General of the state of Washington, not shockingly running for governor right now. And as I came in this morning, I saw the big billboard about human trafficking right outside of the Raven Stadium. And that's a really important issue that we delved in and worked on last year as Attorneys General, but there's not another side to it. There's not a panel that says, I am for human trafficking. And but it was incredibly important in terms of getting law enforcement to delve into it. The issue we're talking about is, there is sort of another side, if you will, regarding internet privacy and privacy in the digital age. And that is, I would argue, it's not really a side, but it's a discussion as to where the line should be drawn. For example, one of the first things I did in this initiative of privacy in the digital age is I drafted a letter to Google. And I had 35, 36 other attorneys general sign on that letter. It became a NAG letter to Google, talking to them about their new privacy policy and how they were going to look at your security, your privacy, and what they were going to do. They said they were going to look at your personal Gmail accounts. They were going to look at every time anything you do touches upon their ecosystem, which is very pervasive, and it's obviously monopolistic in some way. And you cannot be on the internet without touching some part of Google. And they were going to take all these and develop these deep personal profiles on you, and then send advertisements your way. And so the question there is, clearly when they're looking at your Gmail accounts, your emails back and forth to people, and then sending ads to you based on that, it's not that dissimilar to them listening to your phone calls and then sending mail to your house. We are willing, and particularly younger people are willing, as we find out all the time, we are willing to compromise, to give up some of our privacy for legitimate business interests. And the question is whether it's an appropriate or an acceptable amount of privacy that we're giving up. I think where we came out on the Google situation, we're still negotiating with them on it, is that what you're doing is fine in most instances, except for there has to be transparency. The consumer has to know what it is you're doing. What are you doing with that information? And also, is there an ability to opt out? If I don't want you following me around the internet, is there a way to opt out of that? And so, while cybersecurity is a little bit different, it's obviously much broader, and we are, talking to the business community, we are really well situated on the business side to be the hub for cybersecurity because of NSA, because of all the things that are actually in Dutchess District and the state of Maryland, and we need to certainly promote that. But the issue of the privacy is also one. And so where do you draw that line? Where do you draw that line between your individual privacy, your ability and desire to protect your personal information from the legitimate business interests on the internet? Now, I come at this I am a very pro-business, moderate, centrist Democrat. I don't sort of come at this like we want to indict internet providers, but we do want to figure out where that line is, because when you go on Google, when you want to figure out what year this building was made, you can go on Google and do some search or some internet provider and find out that information, and it's free. And it's a wonderful device. The internet is an incredible tool that we use every day. Most of it is free. So they have a legitimate business interest. They have to make some money in being able to target ads to you. And where does that privacy line end, and where does their legitimate business interest begin? I equate it often to getting on an airplane. I mean, the end game there is you don't want the plane to blow up when you travel. And you want that to be, because if you didn't, you'd be, I don't know, you definitely want the airplane not to blow up. So you go to the airport, you go through the metal detector, and you're willing to do that, right? You're willing to take the stuff out of your pocket and put it in the conveyor belt, have some stranger look at it on a television screen, you put it back in. You're now willing to take off your belt and your shoes, which you didn't used to, but you're willing to do that. When they made the X-ray machines where you go like this and they're taking nude pictures of yourself to some stranger and the thing, you kind of thought about it a little bit. Maybe you thought you were getting too much X-ray into your body and it wasn't healthy. Maybe you didn't want your picture provided to the stranger. But again, in the wake of 9/11, you were saying, well, I'll do that. Now, if they said tomorrow, you know, by the way, every time you go on a plane, we're going to strip search you, either in a back room or strip search you in front of everybody else, you might take the train. So there is a line to be drawn, and where that line is something that we're delving into on the national level through the Attorney General. One of the biggest issues that we're going to be looking at in this privacy in the digital age is the collection and dissemination of information. So, for example, Don Fry goes on the internet, goes on Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, and he wants to buy a new book that just came out on the history of the Ravens. And he buys that book, and then he turns off the computer, goes to breakfast and what have you, comes back on the computer, and all of a sudden the ads are about Baltimore, the Ravens, you know, Art Modell, whatever it might be. He's starting to get ads on that, and it's like, well, how'd that happen? I didn't say that was okay. But maybe he'd rather have those ads than ads regarding something that he may not be interested in, has no interest whatsoever in. And so the question is, what should companies be able to collect? What information should they be able to collect? And to whom are they going to disseminate that information? Are they selling your information to others? Do you know that they're doing that? Is there ability to have them not do that? And are they telling you, how are their privacy policies looking? Are they 6 layers deep into a dashboard on the internet, or are they right out there in front? And what is the appropriate place for that, and where should that line be drawn? Another area we're looking at is global human tracking. So you're walking down the street and your iPhone or your Android, whatever you have, starts to buzz and it says, hey, 12 feet up on the right at the Chipotle, there's a burrito sale, $2 off. And you're kind of looking, wait, where's the camera? How'd they know I was 12 feet away from the Chipotle? But you know what, I actually do like Mexican food, and I do like Chipotle, and it's nice to know I can go in there and get a $2 off burrito. And so maybe that's a good thing, maybe that's a bad thing. How do they get that information, and what are they doing with it? And how are they protecting your information from hackers, as we've already talked about, and identity thieves? Online payment. They say in 5 years you're not going to have a wallet or keys. This is going to be your wallet, and this is going to be your keys. You're going to come out of here, you're going to type your password into your iPhone or whatever it is you use, and your car will unlock. You'll put a different password in, your car will start. You'll go to the supermarket in that car, and you'll swipe every product that you get along here, and you'll just walk out of the store and you'll just buy your groceries. You won't stand in the line. Your checks will be on your Visa card, your MasterCard will be on your personal device. And the question there is, how are these companies protecting your financial information from hackers and cyber thieves. And how are they, because what you have really, if you think about it, is you have a bunch of like dudes with ponytails in cubicles in San Francisco or out there saying, hey, look what we can do. And, you know, and they're not really much regard with the law or protecting people's privacy sometimes, and they keep pushing the envelope on some of these things. And we got to make sure that there's somebody looking at it, making sure that somebody's watching the store on this. Because at the beginning, when Al Gore invented the internet in 1999, we were relying on the companies, relying on protecting the integrity of their own websites. So if you bought something on eBay and you paid for that, and the product came back and it wasn't what you bought, you would tell your friends that, hey, that eBay thing, that doesn't really work very well. So eBay invests an awful lot of money making sure that it does, and that there is no fraud on there. And then other legitimate companies did that, and then there are, as anywhere in the business world and everywhere, there's a few bad actors that make everybody look bad. And so how are they, you know, who is regulating the internet? And increasingly it's becoming attorneys general, because as they've talked about, the federal government is very focused, as they should be, on terrorism and homeland security. Local states' attorneys are focused on rape, murder, armed robbery, and so forth, and there's this big vacuum where attorneys general are beginning to fill that in. A couple others, data breaches. There's a law here that we have to, when there's a data breach at your company, you tell us about it. We work with you to make sure that everything's taken care of. Cyberbullying is a very big issue, a very real issue. You read about the kids who kill themselves, or you read about the most egregious of cases, but it happens every day to all of our children and all of our grandchildren. How do you protect their privacy, particularly on social networking websites? We've been working with Facebook and other social networking websites on that particular issue. And then turning to an issue that I think is very of interest to this particular group are twofold. One is the protection of intellectual property on the internet, and the other is piracy and counterfeit goods. And we've increasingly gotten to that space. And it's been touched upon today that much of stolen intellectual property is actually from foreign entities, whether it's states or companies, and there's a number of things we've been working on for that. I mean, it's now easier for thieves to take your intellectual property than it used to be because of the anonymity of the internet. The ease with which you communicate makes it easier for anonymous thieves and hackers, hacktivists and cyber thieves to take your information. One of the things that they do is they take the enterprise software. They steal Microsoft software for their own companies in China and India and other places, and then their products become that much more less expensive to sell over the internet, and they have a competitive advantage. We talk, you know, trade secrets, and there was talking about the numbers are staggering of how much American businesses lose in terms of stolen trade secrets to two types of groups. One are the terrorists and the hackers and the hacktivists that they call them, that just are out there to wreak havoc. And the other are common thieves that just happen to be using a different medium, that is the internet, to steal their information. And then the other piece of it that we're looking at are legitimate companies that provide access to third parties on their site. So the Baltimore Sun will have a website, and they'll have people doing ads on their website. They're selling ad space. But within that ad space for a particular product, there's cookies. Not that the Baltimore Sun is putting on there, but that the company that's advertising on is putting cookies so they can track and gather information from people that go onto that site. And what are their interests? What are they looking at when they go on the Baltimore Sun? Are they following sports? Are they following traffic issues? Or what are their interests, so they can target the ads to them? And then all of a sudden, somebody thinks, well, the Baltimore Sun is giving away my privacy. They're telling people about what I'm looking at on their site, and I'm really mad at the Baltimore Sun. When in fact, the Baltimore Sun has nothing to do with it. And so, you know, some of the companies are getting blamed, and this is happening in the third-party payment world as well, because they are interested in collecting information, financial information from people. When your business uses somebody else to collect the money, then they are often taking that information and blaming it on you, the business entity, and that's something that we need to make sure we watch out for. The other one is the pirate and counterfeit goods. And this is a really, really big issue. that's going on. You see it all the time. I'm meeting tonight with the recording industry association people because they have a big issue with people stealing music and stealing movies. We've done a number of enforcement cases in all of these areas, actually, and they're ongoing all the time. One of them we did was a company called LimeWire, a website called LimeWire, or FrostWire. If any of you used to give your kids money to buy music, buy songs on iTunes, and then all of a sudden they stopped, yet they have thousands of songs on their computers because they're using FrostWire or LimeWire to steal the songs. And that's what every kid does. If your kid's not bad, don't go home and spank them. Or actually, you're not allowed to spank kids anymore, but don't punish them and give them a timeout and put them in the corner. But because every kid's doing it, but what happened was in LimeWire, for example, a kid wanted to get, I'll date myself, Born to Run by Bruce Springsteen. And he or she would go on there and type in Born to Run on LimeWire, and it would, in pedestrian terms, go around to the computers nearby and pull Born to Run from somebody else's computer onto yours. But what it was doing, it was also pulling their private and personal information, their tax returns or whatever might be on there, and inadvertently creating a peer-to-peer network that you, the parent, or even the kid didn't know was happening. And so, we went had discussions with LimeWire and fixed that. But issues like that are things we work on all the time. But we're really involved in this idea of pirating intellectual property. For example, you go on Rosetta Stone right now. You type in Rosetta Stone into Google, because you want to learn to speak French. Remember when they used to teach us French when we were in school instead of Chinese and Spanish? But you want to learn French. You decided that you want to do that, and you go on, you type in Rosetta Stone. Well, 4 of the 5 ads on the right column are actually for Chinese knockoffs of Rosetta Stone. And consumers will then send them money, and you actually don't learn French. You just lose your money. And sometimes they actually do have a product, like the counterfeit drugs that people get over the internet, and how are we protecting that property for the pharmaceutical companies that need to be able to make money so they can put money into research and development. So these are issues that are being worked on at the national level during the course of this year. And while it's not cybersecurity in the sense that hundreds of thousands of people are going in trying to steal information or hack the Department of Defense's website every day, these issues do affect each individual and each business here in Maryland, and we're doing whatever we can. And really, this is all in the infancy. I mean, the technology on the internet is so far ahead of the laws that are written on the books, and then you take it one step further, the ability to enforce those laws, particularly with the international arena in which these people play, it becomes even that much more difficult. But attorneys general are taking on an increasingly visible role in this field, and we look forward to continuing to do so. Thank you very much.